Hey guys, I'm going to take us through a full body mobility flow today. So we're actually going to start from the feet and work our way up. You don't need any equipment, but some props can help. So I've got a box, but you can substitute that for a chair. I'm going to use a pipe for some shoulder pass-throughs, which obviously you could literally use like a pair of leggings, tights, or anything stretchy, or a towel. A cushion for some support, just perhaps if you need that under your knees at certain points or to help support your hips. And then I've got a yoga block, which you can substitute that for some books or anything just to help prop your body up in certain positions or use it for a bit of assistance. All we're going to do to begin with is start in a comfortable sort of kneeling position. Again, you might need a cushion for that to support your knees, but we're going to take your feet through a little sequence and get your ankles and your toes and everything nice and warm. Start with the toes hooked and sit your bum towards your heels. You can have a cushion here just on top of your heels if that feels a little bit too much, and we're just going to wiggle about, working into the toes, into the toe joints. Grip the toes down into the floor, so we're actively pushing them down. Have a bit of a wiggle and then relax into it, and you'll feel that sort of more passive stretch, and then grip and push again. So we're just moving through active and passive, in and out. And then from there, we're just going to unhook our toes, sit the bum to the heels. And in this position, you can have a little go at lifting one knee up at a time and just seeing how that feels, or maybe both. You can do it with the hands. You can have a little go at doing it without the hands. As we go through everything in this session today, you shouldn't feel any pain at any point, okay? So if you do get that, it's a signal to stop. Just listen to your body. From here, we're going to go back with the toes hooked. And again, unhook. Lift one knee at a time or both together, and just keep moving back and forth through this little sequence. I'm going to add in some different variations as we go. So the next thing we're going to do is from this toe hook position, you're going to grip your toes down nice and hard into the floor, and you can use your hands to help. We're just going to lift up, take the knees off the ground, and then see where the heels go to. You don't have to be able to get your heels to the floor, but then test, can I sit my weight back into my heels into this deep squat? And we're just going to move from there now by lifting up the heels, gripping the toes down. Use your hands for assistance. Take the knees to the floor. Unhook the toes. Lift the knees. Hook the toes. See if you can do it without the use of your hands. Really grip down hard through the toes as you lift up. Again, lift up to the toes. This time maybe try it without the hands if you're feeling comfortable with this one already. Slowly take the knees to the floor. Really thinking about getting them to touch down soft and light. Grip the toes down to help support that. Keep the hips open and then unhook your toes and lift up. So it's just working, building some strength within our feet. Grip the toes down to lift up. But also working through that range in our ankles and opening them up. I really like to do this just in the morning when I get up. Everything tends to feel a lot tighter in the morning. But you can do it any time, maybe before your training session as well. We'll just go through this once more. So lift up. Nice and slow. Might feel a bit wobbly. Open the hips. Soft touch down. Don't slam those knees into the floor. And then bum goes back. Lift up the knees. Maybe it feels nicer to just hold that for a bit longer. You can do it one at a time, just lifting one leg up. Really working into the top of the ankle, into the foot. And then from there, hook your toes, send yourself back into that squat. And just sitting in your squat, see how that feels into the ankles, wiggle about a little bit. So from this position, we're going to sit our bum down. We can do this standing as well. And we're going to work through some toe cars. So we're going to think about moving and strengthening up the intrinsic muscles in our feet, but also seeing how much movement we've got available to us in our feet. And if we're always wearing shoes that are like squishing our feet into a certain shape, our feet stop working functionally, and this can really help in terms of your ankle mobility and just everything all the way through the chain of the body. So spread your toes as far apart as you can. It can also help to just place your fingers between your toes if that's possible. Just give them a little bit of a stretch, see how that feels. And then all I want you to try and do is lift up your big toes as hard as you can. So you're going to really pull them up as far back as possible, push all the other toes down into the ground. And then we're going to switch that over and press the big toes down and lift the little toes up. It's like a little toe dance. So little toes down, big toes up. And just keep alternating side to side. And what I can do for a bit of assistance here, because you might be looking at me thinking, what? I can't move my toes at all. So I want you to just press your fingers down into the toes to help assist the toe that you're trying to lift. So you're pushing the others down so they don't all lift up together. Push the big toes down, lift the little toes up. That can just really help build a bit more of that connection. So piecing together what it is you're asking your body to do. Okay, so I'm going to show you this next one standing, so we can also play around with this stood up. Big toes up, big toes down, little toes up. From this next one, I want you to lift all of your toes up, spread them as far apart as you can, and then have a little go at pressing down through the little toe, then the next one, and the next one. See, can you then isolate through one toe at a time, alternate on the way back, all the way out. And again, you can do the same thing here to work down through one toe at a time. So I'm just going to press down on my little toe, push the next one down, then hold it. Then the next one comes down, hold it, and then the next, and the next. And then from there, push down into all the toes here. Lift the big toe, release one, lift it up, and just work your way out. Okay, and we'll go back down again. Last one, little toe, work your way up towards the big toe, work your way out. You should start to feel some heat and movement in the foot. You might even start to feel like a little bit of cramping type sensation. It's a great exercise to just strengthen up through the intrinsic muscles in the feet, but get them moving more functionally. Make sure you go barefoot wherever you possibly can. And this is just going to help with your general mobility. Everything's connected, so what's going on in the feet might be connecting something in your shoulder, or something feels off in the shoulder. So the more we can work through full body, the better. The next thing we're going to do is sit into a squat again. And then from this position, just working the knees forward. I'm going to take one leg back and now press this knee over my toes, or to where I can. So you might be a bit further back, that's fine. In this position, the aim is to just keep my heel down. I'm taking my ankle into that dorsiflexion, driving the knee forwards, and you can kind of wiggle about, move around, make some circles, move back and forth. You can always add an external load here, so you could add like a kettlebell or something, or a dumbbell on top of this leg. And you can also, if that's feeling too much, crouch down, use your chair or sofa, and instead do it up on top of a platform. You also get a stretch in this back hip, and just move around in that position. So stay on that side just for a little bit longer, keeping the heel down. So as we're moving through this flow today, I want you to try and focus on breathing through your nose. As we breathe through the nose, we're going to be drawing the breath more into the diaphragm. This is going to help take away any sort of stress you might be holding further up in the chest or in the shoulders, which we tend to feel if we mouth breathe. So for your nasal breath, we're obviously going to be breathing into the diaphragm, which is going to help protect and support our spine. And also you're going to feel a lot more. You're going to become more aware of the sensations you get going on in your body. You just generally will develop more control by breathing into the diaphragm as opposed to breathing up high into your chest. Okay, switch side, work around into the foot. Keeping the heel down, obviously elevate this side as well if you need to. Make circles, move back and forth. So if you haven't got time to do this whole flow in one go, we're kind of working our way up through the body, so you can split it up and just join back in where we left off. So the next thing we'll do is work into the top of the foot, and then we're going to move towards the hips. So for this next one, you're just going to come into a sort of one-legged squat, but have the top of the other foot on the ground. So from here, I'm just going to start to lower down, pressing the top of this foot into the ground, and then come up again. Lower down. We'll just do 5 each side and press up. And again, really feeling the top of that foot opening up. And come up. A couple more. And then we'll switch. Other foot on the ground, top of the other foot. Come down into that squat. Press and lift. Really feel that stretch in the top of the foot here as we stand all the way up. And then from there, shake your legs out. So the next thing we'll do is come back down into a tabletop position. And as we're in tabletop, it's a good opportunity just to actually work into the wrists a little bit first. So although we're starting lower body up, let's get into the wrists here too. So I'm going to have fingertips towards the knees, hook the toes, send the bum back towards the heels, and I'm now into this wrist extension. Wiggle about, make some circles, move side to side, forwards, backwards, whatever feels good. The closer your hands are to your knees, the easier or less stressful that's going to feel into that wrist extension. So if your wrists are tight, just start here. You can gradually start to work them a bit further away. And we'll also go onto the backs of the hands. So into our wrist flexion. You can do this one hand at a time or both together. Gentle rocks, back and forth. So this is opening up our range, and actually this specific position as you're working to your wrists, you may recognise as the sort of position we need when we go either like false grip on the bar or false grip on the rings. And then the extension, obviously things like handstands or being able to feel a bit more comfortable in front rack position, which isn't always wrist related, but this will just help. And then these are just kind of like more passive openers, just working into that space in the joint. And then from here, I can actually add a little bit of strength. So from this tabletop position, just raising the heels of the hands up and down, up and down, up and down. Roughly go for about 50 of these, just building some heat into the forearm. And you'll start to feel that. You can make it a bit harder by lengthening your body out. So if this feels too easy, just extend one leg back, or you can extend both and really challenge yourself, see if you can do it from plank. Keep moving. And you should start to be feeling a little bit of heat there now. Nice simple exercise just to work on some strength. And then from here, we're also going to do the same. So that was working our wrist flexors, the muscles that pull our hand into this position. We're now going to work the extensors. If you have the fingertips facing towards each other and the palms up, we're going to press into the backs of the hands, press into the backs of the fingers, and then close the fist at the top. So it's important to do this with some intention of actually engaging the muscles in the hands into the ground, as opposed to just kind of going in and out of it really fast. So really push and lift and close, back out, push, lift, close. And you'll start to feel quite early on some heat into the backs of the forearms. Keep moving, keep breathing through your nose. A few more. And then from there, let's go through some rotation. So keep the elbows squeezed in, nice big circles. Moving the hands around. And obviously if you're sat at a desk on a computer all day and you start getting discomfort in the hands and further up into the shoulders, this is a good little thing to do just to give yourself some work into that mobility. And you can obviously do these rotations. You can stretch your hands out here. And then one that I really like is to spread the fingers, manipulate through one finger at a time, kind of draw these figure of eights. And you'll get some heat into those intrinsic muscles in your hands as well. Challenge your coordination. Figure of eight one way, figure of eight the other way. It doesn't take much time at all to build some heat there. Okay, so let's move away from the wrists now. That's enough. Before we come into the hips a little bit deeper from this tabletop position, we're going to start by tucking the bum under and squeezing the bum. So tuck it under and then think about pressing up through one vertebra at a time, really starting to round out through the back, making some space as we get to the top. Spread your shoulders as wide as you can. Really pull the belly button in. Hold that position, pressing the ground away actively. And then we're going to come back to a neutral position, and from there, tilt your pelvis forwards. So you'll feel your bum sticking out, drawing the belly down. And then think about working your way up through the spine, all the way to the top. And here, we're opening the chest between the shoulders, squeezing the shoulder blades down into the back. Always feels good to take a nice breath in as we go into an extension, as we think about that expansion. And then as we go into flexion, tucking the bum, nice long exhale. So just moving in and out of these in your own time. Go a little bit quicker if you like. The slower you go, the more you're going to feel and create that space in those certain areas that might feel a bit tighter. Tuck the bum, work your way up. Tuck the chin here. In the extension, making sure the shoulders don't hunch up is important. So if we really tuck them down, but you can also think about squeezing the heel of your hand in front of your knee towards each other, and you'll feel an even sort of deeper extension. It's more active. And then from there, come back to a neutral position. You can have a little rest if you want. So we're going to go into the hip rotations from this position. So we're back into tabletop. And then from there, tuck one knee in. You can make it nice and easy on this first one. Just draw a circle. Take the front of the hip to point towards the floor. Draw the knee in and then take it back. So nasal breath is going to really help here. It's going to help me stabilize and support my spine so that I don't start sort of snaking about. So as we take the knee in, you'll feel a little bit of flexion through the spine here. Pull the belly in, flex your foot. We're going to take the knee out to the side. Hold that position. Begin to turn the sole of the foot up towards the ceiling. And this is where it's important so that we don't sink into the lower back. So if you feel like your foot's kicking up high and you're sinking your belly down, I want you to think about tucking the bum under, pull the belly in, and you're now actually going to feel your glutes and hamstrings switch on as well. So draw the knee back in from there, take it back to that position where you feel that active hold, not sinking into it. Nice big circle out to the side, and then tuck it in. And we'll do another two on this side. So tuck it in, take it out. You can even have a go at extending your leg out to the side. Opening that hip into hip extension, squeezing the bum, pulling the lower belly in, draw it in tight, take it back, big circle out, back to that starting position, and we'll do one more. Keep breathing through the nose. Taking it out and back down. Cool, onto the other side. So we did like 4 on that side, I think. This is where I can't count and speak at the same time. So we're going to go knee in, flex the foot, take it out to the side. You can make this first one quite nice and easy. Tuck it in, take it back. Nice smooth rotation. Just working through the range that you've got. Don't worry if your leg doesn't come as high. So draw the knee in, take it out. Take that hip into extension again, not sinking here. Pull the belly in. Now you're going to feel the glutes and the hamstrings here. Tuck back in again and take it back. Big circle out and down. Twice more. Keep breathing through the nose. Last one. Maybe you have a go at extending that leg out too, if you did that on the other side, and come back to that tabletop position. So those are some hip rotations, or also called CARs, controlled articular rotations. And in that tabletop position, it's nice because we can kind of block the hips and the shoulders so that we don't start twisting in and compensating from elsewhere. Okay, bring yourself back onto your bum. We'll go back through some of these rotations, just nice, easy rotations. Keep breathing in and out of the nose. And then on your next one, we're going into this 90-90 position. So here might be where a cushion or a block comes in handy. You can literally just prop it underneath this hip to help you sit up a little bit taller. I don't want you to feel like you're instantly going into cramp sat here. You can also, rather than being perfectly sat 90-90, if you need to, just bring your knee and your heel a little bit closer together. So from this position, sat into that 90-90 shape, all we're going to do is see, can I lift the hands and squeeze the fists and sit up from here? If you can't do that, and you've got some support as well, just keep your hands on the floor. And then breathing in and out of the nose, think about pressing this front shin down into the ground so it's active. You're going to feel the outer hip and the glute and everything as it pushes down. The back knee, have a little go at lifting it up and taking it down. Just nice gentle lifts and lowers. On this next one, lift it up, hold it there. Take a breath in. Exhale, take this knee out further. Take a breath in, keep pushing this leg down. Exhale, take this leg out further. Take a breath in. Exhale, open it up. And then from there, when you physically can't move any further and you're stuck, start to rotate till you come over to the other side. Okay, so then we're sat 90-90 on this other side, or with the cushion, or with the knee and the foot a bit close together. Sit up tall, use your hands as much as you need to, listen to your body. So pressurizing this front shin down, the back knee is going to lift. You can support or lift the hands and squeeze the fists. Lift the knee, take it down. And again, once more, hold it on this next one. Sitting up tall, pushing the front shin down, inhale. Exhale, take it out. Inhale. Exhale a bit further. Should start to be grimacing a little bit. Inhale. Exhale further. Keep working the hips away from each other. And then when you physically can't move anymore, let's go across to the other side. And we're just going to do that once more each side, as long as you can actually see me. The sun's like super bright today. So, okay, one more each side. Sitting up nice and tall. Squeeze the fists if you're able to. Keep the shoulders down. Push the front shin into the ground. Lift the back knee and lower. And lift. Keep breathing through the nose. On this next one, hold it. Take a breath in. Exhale. Open the hips. Inhale. Exhale, open that hip a bit more. One more. Inhale, keep working them away from each other. Exhale, open. And then transition. Whew. As long as the intent is to really try and keep the hips as open away from each other as far as possible, then we're good. But when we get to that point that you physically can't move, that's where we start to move side to side so you can transition. So again, last one. Front shin pushes down, sit up tall, belly in, shoulders down. Squeeze the fists if you can. Lift the knee out and lower. And again, last one. Hold it there. Take a breath in through the nose. As you exhale, intention is to open that hip further. Inhale. Exhale, take it a bit more. One more breath. Exhale a bit further. Really working those hips away from each other. And then transition. Okay, shake your legs out a little bit. They might need it. So from here, just bring yourself back into that tabletop position. We're going to hook the toes, lift your hips, bend the knees into a nice easy downward dog. Take the head through the shoulders. Walk through the feet from here, working into the backs of the legs. Wrap the shoulders across the back and then pin the lower ribs in and down. You can do this with your hands elevated on the wall or sofa. Take the head through. And you'll find you'll still be working into the shoulders and the backs of the legs as well. So you can come in and out of that as much as you need to. Maybe lower the knees down, come back up. And all we're going to do is take the right foot up to the top of the mat. You can lower the back knee down, so you can use a cushion here to support that back knee if that's a bit more comfortable. In this position, we're going to let the knee travel forwards and let the back hip open, keeping the heel down. So we're actually working to the ankle, feeling a really good stretch into the front of this hip. We can move in and out, back and forth. And again, we can do this elevated. So I can place my foot on top of a platform, open into the back hip, send the hips back, work into the hamstrings a little bit more, going in and out. And you'll find that that might just feel a little bit more accessible if being on the ground just feels too much. So as we go back here and send the hips back, Lift your hands to your hips if you need to, otherwise you can keep them on the floor. We're just going to turn this foot side to side, feeling everything in the backs of the legs into those hamstrings. Maybe you find areas wherever you turn that foot that feel tighter than others. Again, obviously you can hinge over. Think about leading with the chest so we keep it open. We don't really round out through the back and have all this space between the stomach and the thigh. Think about sticking your bum back and hinging at the hip. So moving back into the hips there can also feel nice just to raise the arms up. And then let's take the hands down inside that front foot. You can wiggle the front foot out a bit wider. Again, you can continue doing this with the foot, the body elevated using the sofa or a chair. So the back knee can stay down or you can lift it up. You can use a yoga block or books here to make the ground not feel quite so far away. And you can also work the forearms down and go in and out of that. So if you don't need the block, take the forearms to the ground, wiggle about into your hips, move around, feel what's going on. And then from here, adding a little twist. So the hand that is closest to your front foot is just going to lift up. Again, you can lift the back leg, adding that rotation into the upper back as well. And come back down. From here, go back into that downward dog position. Again, still elevated if you need to. The other foot steps forward. And we'll do the same on this side. Hands can be inside the front foot. You can wiggle the foot out. You can lift this back knee. Move around in the hips. Keep breathing through the nose. We can start to move back and forth from hips to hamstrings. And again, like we did on the other side, you can elevate the hands and we can also turn this foot. You don't ever have to have this leg straight. And if you're quite mobile, quite flexible at your joints, then try and keep a soft, strong sort of bend in the joint as opposed to pushing it right back, which puts stress on the ligaments. So keep it nice and strong, but slight bend is fine. Turn the foot side to side. Think about hinging at the hip. Feel that nice deep lengthening into the hamstrings. And then you can move in and out of the two or hold a certain position for longer if that feels good. Let the knee travel forwards. Mix it up. You kind of improvise through these lunge positions a bit. Just do what feels good for your body. Maybe raise the arms up. And then from there, take the hands inside the foot. Again, back knee can be down. You can use blocks or anything to stack the hands up with. Maybe lift the back knee. Go to the forearms. Moving around. Keep breathing through the nose. And we're going to add a twist. So you can stay on the forearms for that twist if you like, but otherwise the hand closest to the foot comes up. And then from there, bring it back down. Lift the hips up. So you can walk or jump the feet into a squat. And we're just going to sit in this squat position. And in your squat, you can have the heels lifted. You can actually sit onto a block if that's a little bit better for now. Or you can even kneel down one side. You can obviously use a platform to sit to. We're just going to do some rotations from here. The more time we spend sitting in a squat, the better that's going to help us with our mobility in the ankles, knees and hips, and also everything up top if we start adding in a little bit of a overhead position here as well, really lifting up through the chest. So I'm going to take my hand onto the ankle on the same side, and then the opposite elbow is just going to rotate back. Just go for a few nice gentle rotations, and we're feeling this rotation all the way down into the outer hip. You can also then maybe try extending the arm up as well. If that feels too much, then don't worry about it. And the kneeling variation can be a nice accessible way of being able to extend the arm back and go into a nice deep twist if the squat feels too much to be there. Just one more on this side, then we'll switch. Bring it forwards when you're ready. Just a few with the elbow first. And then let's have a go extending that arm, maybe kneeling down. Keep breathing into it. And again. And then from there, come back into your squat position. We can also have a little go at just pressing the knees out. And obviously, again, you can do this with the hips elevated if you need to. I'm using knuckles here. You can do palms together as you open in and out. And then from this position, from your squat, having a little go, just about 10 repetitions of this one. We're just going to lift the hips up and then lower the bum down and start to feel the backs of the legs really opening up. You can keep a nice deep bend in the knees. You may find you don't lift very far. If it gets too much, just bring yourself out and go back in when you're ready. Otherwise, begin to really trying to lift those hips up a bit higher each time. Again, I'm not counting, so I'll just estimate. The reps don't really matter. We just want to keep moving. Okay, so let's make it one more. And then from there, again, you can soften the knees, you can hold the elbows. Ragdoll. And we're just going to curl up to standing. So, from this standing position, we're actually going to go through some variations of good mornings, which is going to help lengthen into the backs of the legs, keep the hamstring strong and mobile, but also work into different variations towards pancakes. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. We'll get to it. So feet can start directly under the hips. Those of you that are already sort of used to going into the gym and doing any sort of weight training, probably got familiar with this one anyway. So feet under hips, I'm just going to push the bum back. Let the hip hinge and keep a neutral spine. What I'm not doing is tucking the bum under and folding. I'm also not overly tilting the pelvis and like arching into the lower back, because both of those positions are going to feel pretty horrible. So I'm just going to go from here, push the bum back, and you should instantly start to feel the hamstrings engage. If you're not sure if you're doing it right, a good little pointer can be just look at your knees. Do they travel forwards? If they do, you're more than likely going into a squat rather than a hinge. So try and keep the knees directly above the ankles. And from there, open the hips at the top. Hinge over. You can obviously add weighted load to this. So great way to strengthen up through the hamstrings and also work on that mobility and increasing that range. Okay, and then from here, I'm just going to spin around, but we're doing exactly the same thing. Take the feet just a little bit wider. Open the hips and squeeze the bum. Maybe I then go a bit wider again. And this is now sort of my standing pancake good morning. Okay, and we'll do a few more of those. So feet wide, push the bum back, hinge over. Keep the eyes lifted so that we don't then go into this position. Hinge. Feel the weight slightly shift into the toes. You're actually going to feel a lot more there if you're pushing your bum back here. So try and shift the weight slightly forward, hinge over, stand up, squeeze your butt. We can do this with the hips elevated onto a platform. So if it's feeling too much from standing as well, or both variations are easier than being on the floor, but depending on who you are, you may prefer doing it from here. So feet wide, don't lock the knees back, keep them strong, but not over pressurizing through the joint, and just move in and out. So this is another option. So you may want to come back to this when we come all the way to the floor instead of going to the floor if that feels too much. What we're going to do from here is Cossack side to side. So start with a hinge, slowly shift your weight across. Side to side, starting to feel the inside of the legs into those adductors. The knee that's bending, try and track it out. Feel that hip opening a little bit more. And then the other variation we can do elevated. If it's too much on the ground, just pop that foot up on a platform and just do it one side at a time. And you'll find that's a little bit easier to access if this is feeling too intense. So as you go into these Cossacks, begin to lower your body down. Maybe you can sit all the way down and then move side to side. The higher my hips on the transition, the easier that's going to feel. You can challenge it up by keeping the hips as low as possible. You can also make it a bit harder again by bringing the hands behind the head, keeping the chest up, transitioning side to side. And again, like with every exercise we've pretty much done so far, you can also start to progress it by adding a bit of external load. Okay, once you've Cossack to one side, you can just hold it there. The extended leg, when the foot's down, you're going to feel it more into the adductors, and when I turn the foot up, you feel it more underneath into the hamstrings. So you can go through both. It's like some axial rotations into that hip. To help create stability, focus on your nasal breath, you can also squeeze the fists, create a little bit of tension in the body, and then really feel what's going on in that hip. Another little challenge is to sit your bum to the ground and come back up again. If that's too much, you can also pop a block or a cushion under your bum for a little bit of an elevated platform. Gradually work that down over time. It's going to be a lot of a challenge. I don't know how to get those words out then. It's going to be a fairly big challenge into that ankle mobility. And then from here, we'll go across. Breathe into it. Turn the toes up, turn them down. Move through those rotations. Have a little go at sitting down, coming forwards. And then again, side to side. On this next one, as we go across, we're going into a lunge. So you can still continue to do this little sequence with that foot elevated. So don't feel like you have to come down to the floor for this next bit. Back knee can be lifted. I'm just going to raise the arm closest to that front foot. You can either stay here or go onto the outer edge of your back foot, turn your front foot out to the edge of the mat, continue to lift the hips and take the arm overhead. You're going to feel this amazing stretch all the way down into the outer hip. And come back to lunge, Cossack, Cossack, lunge on the other side. Turn onto the outer edge of that back foot. Turn the front foot out to the edge of the mat. Lift the hips, lift that top arm. Let's do it once more each side. Across, lunge, turn, reach up and over. Back to your Cossack. Across, lunge, keep turning, reach. Come back. And then from there, lift the hips, go back into one more fold. You can kind of move dynamically in it. You can hang in it. Okay, from here, let's go back into that squat. Sit onto your bum. So in this position, you can have a block under your bum. Personally, I prefer to do that. Just takes off any added pressure onto those ligaments again. So I'm going to have bum on the edge of the block, feet together, knees open. I'm actually going to turn the soles of my feet up towards the ceiling. From there, you can peel your feet open like a book and then just gently sort of pressing the knees down and up. Keep breathing in and out of the nose. Maybe as you press the knees down, you hold it there for a little bit longer. Think of that hip hinge as we slightly tip forward from the hips, but not folding, sort of trying to get your head to your feet. By all means, if your hips allow you to hinge, that you take your head all the way down, then go for it. But just making sure that we're not really tucking the bum under and rounding through the back. So just keep moving in and out of this position. Again, this is something you can add another bit of weighted load, but really get comfortable with this one body weight first. Just a couple more breaths. Hinge forwards from the hips if you're able to. And then from here, keep the block under your bum. We're going to take the feet out. So we can elevate the hips up onto that platform like your chair or edge of the bed, for example. Otherwise, lowering down. I'm starting with a block. And even if you're comfortable with pancake position, it's always good to just warm into it gradually. So starting with the hips elevated first and working your way down. In this position here, I'm sat up nice and tall, taking the legs wide, but you can do this position with legs in all positions. I can go wide here, I can go a bit narrow, I can go feet together and work into the hamstrings and work on that hip hinge from there. So with the legs wide for this pancake position, I'm going to hinge forwards and then just sit up again. Think about engaging the quadricep muscles above your knees onto your thighs. Hinge, squeeze the legs and lift up. Again, keeping the eyes lifted leading with the chest. The intention here is to get my belly button towards the floor, but for now you might find that you only move a tiny bit at a time, and that's absolutely fine. You just gradually work through that range progressively. If you keep working on this position, just like any movement, over time your mobility and your range will open up. Once you're comfortable with moving in and out of pancake positions, you can add some external load. You don't need to be able to necessarily get your belly button all the way to the floor before you add it on. It can actually help you access a little bit more range. But just make sure you're comfortable and feel strong in these positions first before suddenly loading it up. And you can get plenty out of just body weight by also using the breath. So on this next one, I can make it a little bit harder by squeezing the fist, creating a bit more tension into the body, hinge at the hips, coming forwards, engage the legs, hold that position, and then sit back up. Again, hinge, squeeze the legs, breathe through the nose, and then come back up, and you'll start to feel quite a deep activation into the legs, into the hips. Maybe you want to come down a little bit lower now. You can bring the hands out in front. By all means, you can have a go at holding this passively as well, without always having to do everything. Sort of actively doing a bit of both is great, as long as we're always working to build some strength in that range that we've got. So we've got that control, and we're far less likely to then get injured. So keep moving in and out. Maybe you come down a little bit more. You can also have a go at challenging it up a bit further by squeezing the hands up overhead. So we're taking our limbs further away from our midline. That's also going to make it feel more loaded and harder to control. So engage the legs, hinge, squeeze the fists. Sitting in and out of it. If you're comfortable with this without the block, then you can take that away. Exactly the same, but please, if you need to, don't force yourself to be down on the floor. You can do all of this from up with the hips elevated, or even from that standing pancake position. So do what works for you. We're just going to do 5 more before we move on. So any variation I've gone through, breathing in and out of the nose, hinging, maybe you've got the hands behind you, gently pressing yourself in and out of it. Last one. And then from there, sitting up tall. The next thing I'd like to add in just from here, it feels amazing for the spine all the way into the lower back, is a nice lateral reach. And if this is too much, you can just do this seated. We're actually going to do it kneeling next anyway. We're going to take one hand across the waist, the other arm reaches up and over. And then just switch side to side. You can hold it, press the bum down into the floor, feel that length you're creating all the way through the side of the body. If you can go further, by all means reach for your foot. And then come up and go to the other side, reaching across, breathing in and out of the nose. Maybe you reach a bit further. One more each side, reach across, hold it there. And then from there, bring yourself up. So in this position, we're just going to bring the legs in. You can shake them out, maybe go for a fold with a narrower position with the legs, or halfway in between. Have a little go at working in and out of those positions. We're also going to add another lateral reach. I'm going to give you a couple of options for this one. One that I really like is to stack the legs up so that I can block one hip and then work deeply all the way laterally through one side of my body. So I'm going to show you that first, but this might feel a bit too much for your hips and knees. So I'm going to place one foot on top of the opposite knee and stack the legs. In yoga, this is our sort of fire log pose. The knee might lift up a little bit, and that's fine. Gradually over time, we're sort of working that knee down, working into both hips. But actually the intention for this one is that I'm using this foot to block this bottom hip. So the side where my leg is underneath is going to reach up and over. And this really gets deeply down into the lower back. And this one can feel particularly good if you find that you're stuck, sat down at a desk for long periods of time in the day. So that's not for everyone, because that might feel too much for knees and hips and too much pressure on the joints. So instead what you can do is extend this bottom leg out in front and just block the hip by having the weight of this leg on top. And again, reaching up and over. If you can get the elbow down, then go for it, but don't worry if you can't. Press into the bottom hand, reach this top arm over. What I'm actually thinking about doing from the side of my body through the ribs is expanding out and pulling in from this bottom side. From there, come up and we'll switch to the other side. So either variation, I can place the ankle on top of the knee, or I can extend the leg out, block that hip. The side where the leg's on the bottom is going to reach over. Think about opening up and expanding through this top side on the ribs. You can bend this top elbow as well. And then bring yourself up and out when you have had enough of that one. So the next variation, which I really like as well, is just to go into a kneeling position. And we'll just do this as our last bit before we come a bit further up into the spine and the shoulders. So the knee that's in front on this side, we're just going to squeeze the hand on that side. The side where the hips are open, I'm going to reach that arm up and over and reach it across. In this lunge position, we're tucking the bum under and pressing the hip forward as we reach. And that's going to help you feel a lot more as opposed to hinging at the hip and just sort of reaching from this position. You won't get enough of a sort of lengthening through that lateral chain. So tuck the bum, press the hips forward, open it up, breathe into it. You can bend this top elbow as well. And then bring yourself up. We'll just go in and out 3 more times, a little bit quicker. Reach up, reach across, lengthen through that top side of the ribs. Bring yourself up again, keep breathing. And reach. Again, you can add load to this in that top hand to help anchor you in a bit deeper. Once more. And then bring yourself out. And we'll go to the other side with the leg up. Tuck the bum under, press the hip forward, squeeze the hand on the side, the knees in front. The other arm reaches up and across. Keep squeezing your glutes. And then bring yourself up. 3 more in and out. Reach up, reach across. And then bring yourself up from here. So just a little bit of work into the shoulders since we're in this position. Go back to the other side. We're going to squeeze the hand on the side that the knee's in front. The opposite arm is coming up, and we can take it wide to begin with, especially if your shoulders feel quite tight. We don't want to compensate from elsewhere in the body. We're trying to work into that ball and socket joint into your shoulder. So we're going to take the arm up, bicep can be to ear or further out. Once we get to a sticky point, make sure the ribs are pinned down and the glutes are on. Turn the palm out. Begin to take the hand back. You'll start to turn the thumb towards the floor. From there, keep rotating that shoulder, internally rotating it, and taking the back of the hand to the hip. Then we'll reverse it and take it back. Find that sticky point. Begin to open the palm out, turning the thumb up towards the ceiling. Bring the arm back up, forwards and down. Again, nasal breath's really important to help keep that control and stability, as is a bit of extra tension just by squeezing the opposite hand. So go up again, we'll do it twice more. Bring the arm up, internally rotate that shoulder, drawing the hand back as the thumb turns towards the ground. Moving nice and slowly through that rotation, take it back. Turn the thumb up, bringing the arm up, forwards and down. Once more. And then from there, we'll switch to the other side. Squeeze the hand on the side, the knees in front. Squeeze the bum, keep the glutes on. Take the arm up. Turning the thumb towards the floor as we internally rotate the shoulder. Take it back, find that sticky point. Externally rotate the shoulder. Twice more. And then from there, just give your shoulders a little roll. So forwards and back. What we're going to do from there is elevate the hands on top of a platform. That can be obviously a box chair, sofa, bed, whichever. Hands are going to be shoulder width. You can go a little bit wider. You can also just play about with your grip, so don't worry about the specifics of that. What's important is that we actually activate and push down through the fingers, keep the hands active so that we're not sinking load into the elbow joint or the shoulder joint. So I'm going to take the knees under the hips, take a breath in through the nose, and then begin to take my head through the shoulders, lock the lower belly in, try not to sink the ribs towards the floor. So tuck the bum under, pull the ribs in and down, breathe into it. You can move your weight side to side. So you can move side to side and just feel that opening up into the outer or into the lateral side of the body, so into the lats, into the back of the shoulder as well. Try with the hands a bit narrower as well. And this one's particularly great just to open up that shoulder flexion, which you need for any of those of you that do sort of weightlifting, taking a barbell overhead, or maybe your gymnastics or calisthenics where you're in your handstand. It's going to help just to open up that range at the shoulder. So from here, we'll come back to that one. We're going to add some pass-throughs in, and this can be where you can use like leggings, which tends to be what I use when I'm teaching a class. It's normally what I've got available, so it doesn't have to be a wooden dowel. Just use anything you've got, or maybe a yoga strap. The wider the grip, the easier it's going to feel. And we're just going to take the arms up and draw them all the way back and overhead. What I'm trying to avoid doing is popping out with the lower ribs, so keep them tucked in and down. Keep the belly button drawn in. And then not sort of hunching up through the shoulders. The arms want to stay extended, so if your elbows are bending, just take your hands wider. And as you move through these rotations, you can then start to narrow that grip a bit. And you'll feel anywhere that you're feeling particularly tight, maybe into the front of the chest and into the front of the shoulder, or elsewhere, maybe something in the back or the shoulder blades. Just keep pinning them back and down, and keep moving through those rotations. It's a great way to just warm up and open the shoulders, maybe prior to a session or just on your mobility day. You can also take one arm back and the other arm forwards, and then go back the other way. Keep alternating it. Couple more, taking them back, bringing them forwards. Okay, and then you can pop that to one side. So from here, we're just going to go into a reverse tabletop. And to begin with, just have your feet hip width. You can have your hands shoulder width, and you can choose to mix up the hands a little bit. You can have fingertips pointing forwards, you can have fingertips pointing back. All we're going to do from here is tuck the bum under, elevate the hips, then think about rolling the shoulders back and opening the chest, and lower back down to the ground. You may find your bum doesn't lift any higher than sort of here. If you're finding that you're stuck there, it's probably more that you're tight into the chest, into the shoulders. So keep rolling the shoulders back, tucking the bum under, and then think about expanding into the chest and opening up, lower down, lift up, and just keep moving in and out of it. What we can also do from here is start to lift one arm and take it up and overhead. So I'm going to tuck the bum under, lift the hips, open up and begin to bridge up, coming into a bit more of a spine extension. Bringing it back down, switch to the other side. You'll notice now, as I lift this arm up, I'm screwing this bottom hand into the ground. I'm turning my armpit out towards you. and then coming into that extension here. So I'm really supporting my weight through this bottom shoulder. Press through the feet. Come down, switch side. As you move through those positions, you can keep going. Just stop or make sure that the feet aren't spinning open or you're not overly squeezing your glutes. When you're overly squeezing your glutes and you go into that sort of external rotation at the hip, your feet will also spin out and you're going to feel that tension into your lower back. So as you're raising up, keeping the big toes sort of forwards rather than this happening, and you'll feel more extension into the sort of the upper back as opposed to the lower back. Okay, so from there, all we're going to do is go back onto the box once more, last time through before we come to the end. So we'll open up into that shoulder flexion, we'll do some pass-throughs, and then we'll do a little bit more progression in the reverse tabletop. So elevate the hands, take a breath in through the nose, and then knees under the hips, take the head through, tuck the bum under, breathe. Okay, bring yourself up, take hold of whichever you use for those pass-throughs, and we'll go back through those once more. So again, you can have wider grip or narrow grip, work your way into it, nice and slow. Again, this is a really great one to do if you find that you are stuck at a desk or sat down for long periods of time in the day, where we tend to get stuck in this hunched up position. So it's a great way to just counteract some of that damage. Okay, and then you can move side to side, alternate. Even adding in little side bends, anything that feels good. And then from there, we'll come back to those reverse tabletops. So again, option one is to tuck the bum under and just keep moving in and out. You can also hold it at the top, roll the shoulders back and open the chest. The second option is to lift up and open up side to side. Okay, your third option is to bring yourself into a full bridge, but only do this if you know you haven't got any sort of issues going on in your spine at the minute, and just listen to your body, take it really slow and steady. So you can elevate your feet for this one as well, which can help give you a bit more space, but otherwise we're setting up with the feet roughly hip width, just about a foot or a little bit further away from your bum. Tuck the bum under, bridge the hips. And then from this position, we can place the hands either side of the ears, roughly shoulder width, spread the fingers. Try not to go too wide with the hands. We're going to press through the legs and the arms. As we go into that full bridge position, if you are going into full bridge, just make sure you take your head through the shoulders as we'll open up through the chest. This will actually take pressure off the lower back and help you work into the thoracic a little bit more. So again, tuck the bum, lift the hips, place the hands shoulder width, spread the fingers, elbows point up to the ceiling, push through the legs, push through the arms. Taking that head through as opposed to back here.
Keep pushing through the legs to allow that to happen. Bring yourself down. So, ooh, I've lost my fluff. So what we can do when we're going into that full bridge position, so taking their head through the shoulders and pressing through the legs to allow that to happen, you're going to feel a lot more opening up into the upper back, into the shoulders, as opposed to feeling lots of pressure or compression in the lower back. So try to aim for that where possible. The other thing is avoiding the feet spinning open really wide, because if that happens, or I'm overly squeezing my glutes, that's going to externally rotate my hips. My feet are going to spin out, and that is also going to load through the lumbar spine. So just some points to think about. The thighs are actually internally rotating as I go into that full bridge. All we're going to do from here to finish, guys, is bring yourself into this sort of bent knee position, curl up, stand nice and tall, and we're going to add in a couple of little rolls. So tuck your chin to your chest, let the shoulders roll forwards, roll down through the spine. You can soften the knees, you can bend the legs, you can stay where you are, or you can choose to rock back, rock forwards, curl up. When you get to the top, you can also add a little extension, open through the chest, squeeze the bum, curl back down. Stay where you are or rock. Lift the hips, curl back up. Open up, squeeze the bum. Couple more, roll down. You can hang here if you prefer. Otherwise, bum comes down, rock back. If you haven't got a box in your way, you can extend your legs all the way overhead or keep them bent. Just stay on the shoulders, not the neck. Use your hands to help you get up. And we'll do that once more. Open up, squeeze the butt, rolling down, either hanging out or rolling back. And bringing yourself back up. So guys, that was a nice long mobility routine for you. Obviously you can just split it up and do little bits of that throughout the day when suits or when works for you. But thanks for joining me. Don't forget to click like and subscribe for more videos coming your way. Cheers guys.